assessment methods. So within this hour, actually, we will talk about formative and summative assessments. So when and why and how to use formative and summative assessments, and suggests how we can promote motivational beliefs and self-esteem of students. And at the same time, we will talk about different assessment modes. And you know, the feedback and assessment, they work together. So we would like to investigate different kinds of feedback and its validity also. And at the end, we will talk about the online assessment tools. So I will suggest you some useful tools that you may use in your school or organizations. So now, so at the beginning, I would like to give you a general concept about formative and summative assessments. So like a formative assessment, actually most of the teachers will use it at schools. So because we will use it throughout the instructional period of time, and we want to to minimize the learning gaps of the students. And most of the time, we will give the students some homework assignments, ask the students to draw a concept map or submit 1 or 2 sentences to tell the gist of an article. So these are the examples of formative assessment. And what about the summative assessments? So the general concept is that we use it to evaluate learning. So most of the time you will see it after the finishing, we finish the module, or at the end of a big unit, So this is the general concept of a summative assessment. And what are the examples of summative assessments? So for example, when we ask students to submit a final project, midterm exam, or we ask them to do some texts. So these are considered as the examples of summative assessments. So now I would like you to think of something about your school. So what kind of formative or summative assessments or feedback you give to the students? So I would like to collect your thought about it. So here you are. So please take a few minutes, to just actually 1 minute, would be okay. So to finish the poll question. And then we will try to analyze it and see the result of the poll questions. These questions are very straightforward. So we will see the result in a minute. So we can see that actually which form of assessment do you use most? So actually it's most of you say I use half and half actually. 50% of you use summative and formative assessment together. And then for the second one, what assessment methods do you use to help low achievers? So let's see. So most of you say that I use both. And then, do you think a peer assessment is effective? Many of you think that it's very effective. Yeah, and 27% of you say that no, and some of you haven't got any comment. And about question 4, so what online assessment tools do you use most often? Yeah, because we use a lot, especially nowadays, for online learning and teaching. So most of you use Google Forms, and then Whiteboard. Kahoot has a lot as well. Flipgrid, yeah, and ClassKick as well. And yeah, there are also 9% of you saying that I don't use any online assessment tools. That's very interesting. And number 5, which kind of feedback is the most effective? So we have 64% of you saying that both self feedback and the peer feedback would be the most effective ones. So that's very good, very interesting. Yeah, so we can see that actually many of you use a formative and summative assessments yeah, for your students, yeah, for their learning. So let's see. Yeah, the assessment and also the feedback, yeah, that we use in the schools. So we can talk about the formative assessment and summative assessment and online assessment in great detail. So it's like a formative assessment. Actually, we know that it's a very good tool to help students to shape their learning. So it can really help students yeah, to take their ownership of education. That is very, very important for their learning. And this is the goal, yeah, to use formative assessment. And what are the formative assessment that we usually use? So for example, when you think about yeah, the exercise or activities that you give your students to do, so most of the time, so it's like some surveys you give them to do, video quiz, debate, homework assignments, yeah, peer review, in-class discussions, or sometimes we give them 1-minute reflection, writing assignments. These are some tools that include, yeah, in a formative assessment, because when they learn something, yeah, we teachers would like to give them some task to do. So the goal is to monitor students' learning, and we would like to provide them ongoing feedback to help, yeah, their learning. So apart from formative assessment, actually that's not enough. So at school, most of the time we will also have a summative assessment. So summative assessment are mostly, yeah, the marks or the grades that we give to the students, especially after the whole instructional period or the whole module. So some people, yeah, said that we use a lot of summative assessment. So actually, you can think about is it a good way to do, or we add some formative assessment would be better. So this is yeah, the points that we may need to consider. So sometimes maybe we can also combine these two assessments together. So examples of summative assessment. So when you think about yeah, the school, so you will have some marks for the final project, or some marks for the exams, or you give them some tasks about the final essays, presentation, reports. So all these actually it belongs to summative assessment. And because we would like to evaluate the student learning, and we also need to put a mark or a grade, yeah, in the report. So we may need to combine summative assessment and formative assessment together. However, when we use the summative assessment, there is something different. which is we need to have a kind of benchmark or a kind of standard or a kind of rubrics, yeah, for the summative assessment, because we need to follow some sort of benchmark to see where the students are. And here, you can see a diagram which is very, very useful, because it shows that, yeah, formative and summative assessment, so they are actually, we can work together. So it's like a formative assessment. We help the students to learn and practice throughout the course. So it's about the process. However, summative assessment, it's about the product, you can say, because yeah, for the summative assessment, we'll collect the evidence of the student's knowledge. And sometimes, most of the time, I can say we use the mark or the grade, yeah, to grade the students. So this is a general view, yeah, general diagram, yeah, for formative and summative assessments. And what does it mean? So from the general concept that I've told you just then, so when you think it over, formative assessment is the assessment for learning, whereas summative assessment is the assessment of learning. So it is quite different when you think it over. So do we just use formative assessment or summative assessment? I think it's very difficult. So most of the time, people will combine both together. So as teachers, what do we want to achieve? This is something that you need to think about it when you think about, oh, which kind of assessment I have to use. That means what kind of activities or hands-on experience that I would like to give to the students. And what kind of assessment do you want to use at the end? So I know that it's quite difficult, yeah, to enhance the students' learning. So, but what should we do? And when you think about it, in our lesson, we have a lot of things that we can do, actually. For example, we can have a lot of activities, like you can ask the students to write the quizzes for their peers and complete with the answer keys. So you know, when the students, if they try to find out some information themselves, they can learn more. As it's like when you ask the student just look at or read something, so they can only absorb that kind of knowledge, maybe that just 10 to 20% or even less. Mm-hmm. But when you ask the students to do the research, maybe they will have more percentage to understand the knowledge, to have the knowledge, like 50%. If they can teach other people to do something, so they can have 70% or 80%. So you can try to ask the students to do some research for a certain topic, or write the quizzes for other people, for their peers. And they can also do the peer review as well. And sometimes you can also ask the students to keep a journal from the perspective of a minor character in a book. And then you can also ask the students to write down their favorite quote from last night's reading assignment and to explain what it means. And for many lessons, actually, you can also ask the students to draw, for example, mind maps, some other charts, diagrams. So you know, when they have some visual things to show, so they will remember the things better than just reading, yeah, or writing, yeah, sentence by sentence. And you know, yeah, in English lessons, we ask the students to write passages and many things. But sometimes maybe you can also consider there is another kind of activity, like you can ask the students to act as a kind of copywriters to write some persuasive expressions to sell a product. and even ask them to do a kind of a presentation. Yeah, how to sell their product. I think this activity might be very useful. Yeah, because maybe when they apply for a job or when they work, yeah, when they have grown up, they can think about the points that they can sell a product. So apart from these activities, so I have some other activities to suggest you to how to say to use in the lesson. So for example, you can ask the students to write out a test or a social media message that explains something that they have learned that day. Because the students nowadays, they are very familiar with all sorts of social media, and you can ask something about that. Ask them to to do some activities like that. And you can also play a fun vocabulary or spelling game with the students, and keep a KWL chart on the classroom easel or bulletin board during your lesson. So you can ask them, for their prior knowledge, what they know and what they want to know, and what they have learned. So you keep the chart, in the classroom, and to ask them, you can ask them to fill in the chart from time to time, so that they can accumulate the knowledge, and they can also have some visual things to see, to show it in the classroom. So this is another way that you can do it with your students. And for formative assessment, actually, you can do a lot of things. Yeah, like you can pass out some sticky notes to students and allow them to add questions or statements about a certain topic at any time. And you can think about asking them to do different kind of interviews, so that they can learn about the presentation skills, or some skills during interviews, or do they need to do the eye contact or any body language that they need to use during interviews, or any sort of language, different kind of genres they need to use during interviews, or other things, generic skills that you would like them to learn, so they can present it in English, so they can learn a lot of English and many other skills. And the other thing is that you can ask the students to write reflective journals. This is also very good, because when they read something, at the same time they can express themselves, and they have some reflections upon something. And next, you can also ask the students to conduct a kind of experiment. You can do some kind of a cross curriculum with other subjects. So if they have learned something new, for example, in the science lesson, what kind of experience they have learned, and then they can do the experiment and also present it in English. So this could be a kind of a formative assessment. And for example, if they have learned something in the history lesson, so let's say a dynasty, that's the Han dynasty, whatever, and then you can ask them to think about use a very short paragraph to describe some sort of episode from the history. Actually, use Gobbet like in the in-class discussion is very effective. So you can ask them to show an image or a cartoon, a photograph, a map, or a coin, even a coin, or anything actually, for them to analyze. And then you ask them to show it, to do the presentation in English. So this could be a very, very interesting piece of assessment for the students. So I've given you some ideas of a formative assessment, and now I would like to give you some ideas about summative assessment, because some teachers, they would like both suggestions. So apart from formative assessment, I will also give you some summative assessment examples, some ideas that you might use it in your school. So for example, you can ask the students to create a kind of a mini ecosystem in a terrarium. So they can work in a group. They can put the terrarium with the help of the school actually. For example, maybe they can show it at the entrance of the school. And then they can do some board display or some research that they have done to show it at the entrance of the school, and at the same time they can see the real objects. So you can do it as a kind of um, life science experiment and research. But at the same time you can use it as a kind of summative assessment. And you can also say that the process of using this terrarium, it's a kind of a formative assessment. But at the end, you can ask them to do the presentation, and then maybe you can give them the feedback and the grade. So it could be a kind of a summative assessment. You can say that it's a combination. And for the other points that I can suggest is like you can ask the students to create a kind of multimedia poster that incorporates ideas from the entire unit. And then the third point that I can think about is about something very interesting. Like you create the activity like it's called a day in history. So you can think about ask the students to play some roles, like some roles in history, or even you can ask the students to sit together at lunchtime. So for example, you ask one of them to pretend as the Putin, the other one pretend as Macron, the other one you ask the student to play the role as Angela Merkel. So what would they talk about during lunchtime? So this could be an activity for them to do. So at the same time you can do your assessment. And then sometimes you can also encourage students to depict a scientific process, a complex plot or historical event, or even mathematical concept. You can combine some other knowledge that they have learned in other subject, but you just ask them to present it in English, in a graphic novel format. So this format actually you can ask them to present their ideas or concepts in a kind of a comics format. That is the graphic novel format. And the other two ideas that I would like to give you is that you can assign a song project, so in which the students can change the lyrics of their favorite songs to demonstrate their knowledge of a certain concept from the unit that you have taught, or something that you would like them to delve into. So it's just you change it into a kind of song project, but at the same time they can learn something about music. They can learn the language when they put the words in the lyrics. And the other one, the other idea that I would like to suggest you is that so you can let the students design a kind of a board game, and they can play together, and they can complete with challenges and with some creative details. So the students, they are very good at creative creating many different things. So there will be a lot of surprises, I'm sure. And actually, we can combine formative assessment with summative assessment. So like the example that I showed you just then about the terrarium. So actually, you can do it with for example, for the whole level of the school. So and then you ask or a few groups of people, they work together, and then they can do the formative assessment, and at the end they can do the summative assessment. And sometimes you can think about you can create a kind of a mini practical project. So for example, if it is primary schools, you can ask them to organize a fun fair booth. Secondary school, you can ask them to think about a project, and they can write a kind of plan and proposal, and they can create a timeline themselves and assign the duties, and they can think about how to organize the project, and at the end they can present the project. And after that, you can ask them to do a kind of a peer or group review. So this would be a very very interesting activity for your students, because they can have the hands-on experience to create a kind of a project. So these are the ideas that I would like to suggest you today. And what about for some students? So that so how can teachers help facilitate the learning of low achievers and promote students' self-esteem? Because there are some students we need to help them during the learning process, because they are weaker. So what we can do actually? So for example, sometimes we can think about we don't give them the grade or just give them the feedback, because we may just focusing on the learning process, not the final grade or the marks to these students. So we can make them feel better, so they will not feel inferior to other students. And we can also allow resubmission of the paper, and sometimes we can allow an open book examination. And because we would like to assess a student's experience. We are not going to give them the mark or the grades that show that they are not as good as others. So we want to help them during the whole learning process. So we need to give them some feedback and also some more hands-on experience. So when we know the assessment, formative and summative assessment, and actually there are different kind of assessment that we can do with the students. So for example, after the whole project, we can think about shall we give them the self-assessment, peer assessment, or group assessment, or class assessment? So like a self-assessment, different assessment, actually they have their pros and cons. So for example, self-assessment, they may, it will give the students, the opportunity to develop their judgmental skills, and they will not have the peer pressure, and they can be more autonomous. They can think about, their own strengths and weaknesses more. But the disadvantages will be sometimes maybe they will be more subjective, and it may not be that true, And what should we do then? So for self-assessment, we can give them self-assessment, because of those advantages that I have mentioned. And at the same time, you can think about, shall we put self-assessment as just a part of a formative assessment process rather than a summative one. So it's just a part of the assessment. So apart from self-assessment, and we can offer them the opportunity to have a peer assessment. So it could be also good, because when the students, they have peer assessment, so they can develop their judgmental skills when they assess the work of other group members. And we can discourage the problem of free riders, and then the students may work a bit harder because they know that they will be judged by their peers. And they can learn how to criticize and evaluate the performance of their peers. However, peer assessment has also got some disadvantages. So what are these? So actually, for example, they may have a peer pressure, and sometimes some students, so if they are more open, they like to talk, maybe they have a higher mark than the other quiet or shy students. So these are something that we may need to consider. So how to deal with this problem? So for example, when we set the peer assessment, so before that, we may need to set a kind of rubrics, the kind of a criteria or checklist that they may need to consider at the beginning. So we need to do it to brief them beforehand. So that they would be a bit fairer to other students, to their peers. So at least they have some rubrics to follow. And we would like to encourage fair play. So apart from peer assessment and self-assessment, and what assessment we can also do with the students? So for example, we can also do the group work assessment. So group work assessment, actually, it has got some advantages. So for the students, they can enhance their quality of learning through collaboration. So in the school and also work in the society, we need to cooperate with people. So I think it's very important to have the collaboration between among the students. So because it can also develop a kind of a sense of responsibility for some students. So they can learn a lot of generic skills when they have the teamwork, or they are doing a kind of project. They will learn many things, not only the subject knowledge, but also other generic skills. So it is one of the best assessments that we can use. However, group work assessment will also have something that we need to consider. It's like when we arrange the group projects. So, for example, who will be responsible for what kind of work, and shall we give all the people the same mark, or we will assign some work that will have a different proportion of marks. So we need to think about all these, because sometimes it might be tricky when we do the group work assessment. So some of them, they may complain, oh, I have done a lot of work, but that person doesn't really do a lot, but we all have the mark, the same mark, A. So they may find that it's unfair, and it may be very time consuming for teachers to do all these group work assignment and assessment. So what should we do? So for example, when we when we do the group assessment, yeah, maybe we can think about 3 things like share group mark and individual mark, and also shall we combine the individual and group marks together. So these are the concerns that we may need to think about. Yeah, maybe we can solve this problem by giving the group work, the group member a kind of weightings. Yeah, so with a better weighting system, for the mark, maybe it will be better. So among all these assessment, actually, we are now using a lot of online assessment. So here I have got some suggestions for you. So like Canvas, Class, Compare, iPair, Peer Scholar. So these, because there are a lot, so I can only pick up a few. For you at the moment. So you can see what kind of assessment you would like to do. For example, if you want to do the self-assessment or group assessment, you can choose different models or different applications. So these are for your reference. So some of them, they can help you to do the summative feedback, or some of them, they can help you to generate a report as well. And here, so I have put all the links. I've put all the links for you, and then you can see, you can check all the features that will be suitable for you, for your school. And for assessment, we always talk about assessment, but actually for feedback, so they are really they work together. So it's like they are very good friends. So we shouldn't separate them. So like the model like the formative instructional practices. So what we have to think about. So when we design a lesson, please think about where is the learner going, and where is the learner now, and how does the learner get there. So what are these? Actually, we would like to introduce this model to you. So when you design a lesson, so please think about the learning targets. So think about, are the learning targets clear? And what about the students? Can they take the ownership of their learning? And so the evidence of learning is collected and documented. And after that, you may think about the feedback. So what kind of feedback should we give the students? Actually, we have informal feedback, formal feedback. There are a lot of different kinds of feedback. So you may think about sometimes you can combine different kind of methods and combine different kind of feedback to give to the students. And sometimes we may give them formative feedback, so to help their learning. Actually, we would like to monitor students' learning. When we give them feedback, so they can have the progress. Of for example, they have finished step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. So how they go with that step. So we can use the formative feedback, and at the end, we can see they have already finished the whole module. So we may give them the summative feedback. And then so the other feedback that I would like to focus on. So that's the peer feedback and also self feedback. So peer feedback, you can add it in your lesson also. But you may need to ask your students to follow a kind of a checklist or rubrics before giving their friends with some feedback. And self-feedback also, so is very, very effective because they can try to think about how they learn the things. So what are their strengths and weaknesses? And here we can see a kind of diagram, which is from Harty and Timperley, 2007. This is from the power of feedback. So when we talk about feedback, we will think about three questions which are very important. So for example, where am I going? What are the goals of your lesson? So this is called feed up. And then how am I going? So it's like most of the time we'll think about, after the lesson we would like the students or the audience to give us a feedback. So we will have a kind of reflection, and then think about what can we do afterwards. So that is where to next. And feed forward is called feed forward. And then these are the main questions that you need to think about. So are the goals clear? And then have we done the reflections? And after the reflections, we need to think about what we can do next. So that's the feed forward according to Harty and Timperley's model. Okay, so here I would like to give you a few minutes, 3 minutes to do the breakout rooms. Okay, so let's share some some of your thoughts about this. So group one, Samantha, can you share something with us?
Yeah. Sorry, I'm watching this with Jack and he's right next to me. Do I need to just talk about my thing, or would you like me to recall the other people in my group as well?
Yeah, record.
Oh wait, my thing is muted. Sorry, can you say that again?
Yeah, can you recall what are the things that you discuss or share with the group members?
Yeah, so I was talking about how for my S4s and my S5s, I like to try to recreate the DSE exam format to give them as much kind of like real life preparation as possible. Mm-hmm. So I'll teach them a lesson about a speaking skill or a topic, and then I prepare a worksheet that has 4 questions about the lesson, and then I basically put them into breakout rooms in groups of 4 or 5 to have like a group discussion, but I also pick on random individuals from each group to give me like a brief on what they've talked about. So regarding the 4 questions. Ben talked about how he likes to implement role play for like interviewing prospective managers, which I thought was really, really quite a fun strategy. And then Jenny talked about how she mainly uses formative assessment because we need to consider that online teaching is like quite different. So we need to modify like what we know will work for online lessons, basically. I hope I recalled that correctly. But yeah, formative assessment over summative assessments for Jenny.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Thank you. And what about group 2? Anybody would like to recall the things that you talk about? Group 2, anybody?
It was Alice, Jack, Mariana, and Queenie in group 2.
Ah, okay.
Queenie, sorry, I had no idea that we were in group 2.
And what about maybe group 3, please?
Group 3, we have Josh, Tina, Leo.
So maybe Leo or Josh, yeah.
we were just comparing sort of primary versus secondary experiences, but I didn't have a lot of summative assessments. I was more sort of talking about a few examples of limited formative assessments with sort of senior secondary students doing sort of oral practice, and how we sort of break down the skills. So you introduce one skill in a particular session and then put it into practice, with the focus on the discussion purely on that one skill. And then you sort of repeat that. And then at the end, they've tried out and implemented a load of different skills, which would eventually form into a summative assessment, but I never had to do any of those. And then Leo was talking a bit about primary and his experiences there. And we started to get into peer sort of feedback and how it was effective, but we didn't really have a chance to get into that properly. But Leo can talk a little bit more about primary if he wants to.
Okay, yeah, thank you. So basically, yeah, when we teach, we will combine, yeah, summative and formative assessment. Yeah, we combine both things. Yeah, from what we can hear. Yeah, so that's very interesting. Thank you, and thank you for sharing. Yeah, and actually here I have I've got some online assessment tools to suggest you. So for every icon, actually, I have put the link. Yeah, so if you have the interest to see all these, so maybe, yeah, if any one of these, maybe, yeah, it will be yeah, suitable for your school, your students. So you can take a look, and when you click the star, so there are a lot more. So I have put some features for different kind of applications or online tools here. So you can also check it. And for every icon here, so I've also put, I mean here, it should be here. Yeah, I have put the link here as well. So you can take a look. So these are my suggestions, and at the end I have put some links and some useful articles for you for your reference. And yeah, here is the exit ticket, and you can think about what you have learned from this session.